Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
And this is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
How's it going?
Man, it's so early this morning that my voice still has that like groggy sound to it.
Yes, we are early morning recording because my girl over there is heading out of town.
Yeah, so we just had to get this quick intro done.
Yeah.
Although we probably could have done it on Sunday right before, but it's just so much better to have it done and not have to be like, oh my gosh, we have to do this now because it drops tomorrow. So
well, and I always stress about like flights being canceled and, you know.
Well, we're driving, so just
okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
Anyway. And I'm really excited about this drive and cannot wait to talk about it on the next intro because I know there will be fun stuff that is going to happen on this drive, and I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Oh no, why can't I know?
You will know when and if it happens.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited for the drive too now.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I guess I can just go into this real quick before we do business, but my son and husband just got back from London because my husband does this 10-year-old birthday trip with all of our children, and our middle guy turned 10 over COVID, and so he didn't get his 10-year-old birthday trip, so he went this year, and they went to London, and they had a great time, fantastic time, did all the fun things, but on the way home, they had a little bit of a stressful encounter because Emery just got done with but he's like a month out of his hip surgery, and so he was still using a cane, and so they get to the airport to come home, and they don't get there in an hour before the flight. Okay. So they won't book them on their flight. They won't check them into their flight. They're like, you can't check in. It's less than an hour. It's like 58 minutes, he said.
Wait,
they would
what?
not check them in. Yeah, you have to be there. You have to check in at least an hour before.
Is that a London thing?
In an international flight. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so they wouldn't check them in. So they put them on a later flight, which then bumped their next flight later, which whatever, that's fine. But then they were like, hey, do you want to get the extra assistance? Because, you know, and he did use some extra assistance on other trips. And it was like, oh, it got us in the line first. It got us on the plane first, you know, whatever. So he was like, no, it's fine. And they're like, no, you should do it. And they kept pushing it. So he said, yes. Well, then they put him in a wheelchair, and you can't get out of that wheelchair once you get in it, like to do anything. So they wouldn't let him out to like help like Xavier with like stuff. And anyway, so they go through security and they wheel him through or get him through, put him up because their bags got flagged because they forgot to take whatever out, toothpaste.
Oh my gosh.
They're going through their bags and everything gets taken out, and they don't have TSA there. So like they take the computers and everything out. So Emery's in this wheelchair. Xavier's got to like collect all the things. They get to the gate. It takes forever to get to the gate. And they realize Emery's work computer and iPad are not in his bag. So they're still at the security. So Emery then is like, screw this, I'm going. So he like walks all the way to the gate, and it takes him forever. And he's kind of turned around because someone's wheeling him, and they take this like cart. So he didn't really pay attention to where everything was. Right. Plus he didn't know which like security line they'd gone through. So anyway, he goes, no laptop, no iPad, comes home without any of it.
Stop it. Where was it?
Well, we still don't know where it is. He's put in, like, keeps looking on their website because they like put in all of the lost things, and he's put in on their, goes in on their website because when you see your like item pop up, you can put a claim in for it. But no iPad 7th generation has popped up, and no laptop. So work has already wiped his laptop and given him a new one. So it's like all whatever. But the iPad's just somewhere in Heathrow.
Oh my gosh. That sucks.
Yeah, it does. And they told me like none of this until they got home. And then they were like, okay, here's what happened. Here's why we were, because all I got was we're delayed on the ground here. We're going to be later than we thought we were, which they ended up getting on their first flight once they made their connection, because that flight got delayed and they got standby and got on it. But like in the beginning, they're like, we're delayed. And they're like, well, this is why we were delayed.
Oh my gosh. And poor buddy, like your kid was probably like, is this normal for flying?
No. Yeah. I mean, thankfully he knows it's not, but it was just like, what the heck? And he thought Emery was kidding when he was like, I don't have my iPad or laptop. And so like, Xavier was just like, oh, ha, 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 like one more bad thing to happen. He's like, no, really, I don't have it. He's like,
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
Well,
that
I'm
was
glad they made it home safe at least.
Yes, that's all that matters. They got home. They're home safe.
They had a good time.
Can replace things.
That's right. Yes, exactly. So, ooh, what a nightmare. I feel like if because people are traveling this summer, that they could write us in and tell us like all their horror stories of travel or something. They would be like, stuff like that. But
probably.
And it does seem like when you are flying specifically, when one thing happens, it's like a snowball. It's never just one thing. I feel it's either like nothing perfectly uneventful, or it's like 10 things went wrong.
All the things, yeah.
Either
and that would have stressed me out. And the minute they told us we couldn't check into our flight, I'd have been like, what?
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. Well. Also wanted to mention a couple things. One, in this episode, I talk about a person who is up for parole, and that it was going to happen in between when we recorded and when this actually dropped. So the person did go up for parole and it was denied. So when I talk about that at the endish of the episode, no, parole was denied. Okay.
Got it.
The other thing is we will not be dropping an episode next week for the week of the 4th of July. So you're going to have to binge or go to our Patreon or take a break as well.
Right.
Give your ears a break as well.
July in general is like a kind of a breakish. We release episodes, but only like a couple typically.
Right.
So just know that.
It's our holiday month.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know why we picked July. Probably because it's just like the summer and it gets hard for us to record and all the things. There's so many things happening. We're on trips at different times. And it'd be nice if we just coordinate our schedules so that we're gone at the same time all the time.
I know. Well, in September we will be.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I'm going in September to the loo.
So excited.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, I'm sure we'll probably jump on something while we're there together.
For sure.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, other than that, I do have a crime story. So if we want to get into that, we can.
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Okay. Christy's drinking her Polar Pop, so we had to pause. Ice was loud. Here we are for a case that was suggested by our friend Stephanie.
Okay. Hello,
Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much. She is familiar with the area where the victim was found and remembers hearing the story about this case growing up. And let me tell you, this is a doozy of a story. It started out normal. What?
Okay. Nothing. Just go ahead.
Okay. It started out normal and then opened up into this whole giant web of darkness.
How did it start out normal?
Like a normal case, normal for us.
So it went in a direction you didn't think it was going in.
Correct. Okay. Yes. Okay. I started reading it because, and I'll tell you why. She wrote in about one specific victim. So that's who I'm going to mainly focus on, but there are other victims that I'm going to mention and talk about. So I was not aware of that until I was into the research and then was like, wait a minute.
Well, so is it technically a serial killer then?
Correct.
Oh.
Okay. Spoiler. So we're also going to be in a bunch of different places. We're going to be in Tennessee a little bit. We're going to be in Georgia a lot bit, and then in Alabama. And Stephanie, our listener, is familiar with the Alabama area.
All right.
Also, a quick trigger warning. There is talk of sexual assault and violence against teenager. Oh. So be aware. This is the case of Lisa Ann Millican.
Okay.
Lisa was born March 18th, 1969 in Cedartown, Georgia. She's an Aries. Like yourself?
Yes.
Oh, wait. Maybe she's not actually. No, she's not an Aries. She's whatever comes before that. That I can't remember right now.
I don't know.
Write these things down. Okay. Cedartown is located in Polk County and has a population of just over 10,000 people. It's northwest of Atlanta and right on the border of Alabama. So, very sadly, not much is known about Lisa and her upbringing and her life. I know that her father's name was Fred, and I know that she had 3 siblings. I
Okay.
do not know who her mother was. She's never named. And the little that we do know about Lisa's life is very tragic and sad. So she
Okay.
did not have a great childhood.
One thing, she's a Pisces.
Oh, a Pisces. Oh, yeah, that actually makes sense. Okay.
Mhm.
Lisa's father was known to have sexually abused her as a child, and it
Mm.
is believed that her mother was aware of the abuse and just ignored it.
I don't understand that. I don't get it.
Never. And I don't think that her parents were together.
Mm.
Like at some point they did separate because Lisa was also sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend,
Oh, okay.
who was also known to abuse her mom. So I'm assuming that she went back and forth between mom's house and dad's house, and at both homes, she was being assaulted by 2 men.
Oh my
So there
gosh,
was
she
no
didn't
safe
have.
place.
Yeah, I was just gonna say she
Yeah,
didn't have an escape ever.
right, exactly. There was no safe place for her. So at some point, people became aware of this abuse situation, and Lisa and her 3 siblings were removed from the parents' home. From there, Lisa was placed in 4 different foster homes and then went on to live in 2 separate youth centers for foster children.
Hmm.
Because Lisa was a victim of sexual abuse, which what they think was her entire life, and she had extreme trauma, she had a really hard time functioning in like mainstream environments. She became very promiscuous at a young age, which is extremely common with victims of childhood sexual abuse. She didn't do well in school academically, and she also had a hard time fitting in because she was never really in one place for very long. She was
Mm-hmm.
shuffled around to so many places. She was extremely angry, and she would fight and act out and become difficult to manage.
Mm.
She had a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
She caused a lot of fights with peers or other foster children, mostly fighting over boys, is what was said, which the whole thing breaks my heart because she had all of the signs of an abuse victim. And what isn't clear is what, if any, kind of help she was actually getting from the
Right.
system. Like she is doing everything she can to show her trauma
Mm-hmm.
for help. And I don't know. I don't know what it was. My guess is not much because it's the 70s and 80s in Georgia.
It's exactly what I was thinking. Like back then, was there that much help out there for them? Were people acknowledging this kind of stuff going on? Like,
I no, and this not in general. I think there was not
right,
a whole lot of resources for anybody to get help with things like that, but especially not for a foster child who is they're a discarded member of society a lot of times, especially
uh,
back then.
and I'm sorry, where was she again?
Georgia.
Okay, well, remember the Santa Claus things? There
Right. Oh,
wasn't
right.
anything helping them. Their foster care system was terrible, and it was around the same time, like same kind of era. So, yeah, I just
Well,
think it
there
was
you
the
go.
system in general. Yeah.
Agreed. So what ended up happening from my perspective is she just got shuffled from one place to the next whenever one person or house or home or center got tired of dealing with her. So by the time Lisa was 13 years old in 1982, she was living in a foster care center called Harpst Home for Girls in Cedartown, Georgia. On September 25th of 1982, Lisa went with a few other foster children from the home to Riverbend Mall, which is located in Rome, Georgia. While the girls were there, they spent some time in the arcade, and at some point, Lisa became separated from the group. I don't know if she just wandered off or if like she wasn't done playing in the arcade and they went somewhere else, but she was alone.
Hmm.
And whenever they got back to their meeting place to be taken back to the home, Lisa didn't show up.
Mm.
She never returned back to the Harpst home.
Oh no.
So the people that worked at the group home reported Lisa missing, and it was assumed that she had run away, which wasn't uncommon of
Hmm.
the foster children in these homes. Police did put out missing persons flyers. They checked with Lisa's biological family, but no one had heard from her and she wasn't there, and there were no other signs of her sightings around town that anyone was reporting.
Hmm.
So on September 28th, 3 days after Lisa went missing, police in Fort Payne, Alabama, so just over the border in Alabama. It's about 35 miles, actually, from where Lisa went missing. This police department got a call from a young woman, very young woman. The caller was soft-spoken and was a young female, and she said, so I'm going to quote this because it's important later. Yes, y'all looking for Lisa Ann Millican? She's on run from Harpst home. I can tell you where she is.
Wow.
So the caller went on to give very detailed directions to police on where this girl's body could be found in Little River Canyon in Alabama.
Oh my goodness.
So the Alabama police called the Georgia police, and they confirmed that they did have a missing persons case for Lisa Ann Millican out of Rome, Georgia, from Harpst home. So they thought, well, could be real. So officers went out to the canyon to see if they could find a body. After searching in the area where the lady caller had directed them to, they came up with nothing. So they thought maybe the call had been a prank and that maybe it was even Lisa herself that had called because the person that called was so young sounding.
Right.
So they left. The following day, the Rome Police Department, so Rome, Georgia, where Lisa went missing from, got a call from a lady who asked why the body had not been found in Alabama of Lisa Ann Millican. She again gave them detailed directions to where the body would be found, and the directions were exactly the same as what she had given the Alabama Police Department. Mm-hmm. So now 2 different police departments in 2 states have gotten calls about the same missing girl. So Georgia and Alabama team up. They compared the records of the 2 calls and confirmed that it was the same woman's voice. They had a recording of it. And they said it was the same person and the exact same directions were given. So they know it was the same person that called. So Alabama police went out again to the canyon, this time with more people, and they did a more thorough search. And eventually they did find a body located over a cliff and kind of laying under the edge of the cliff. So, like a cliff juts out. Mm-hmm. So if you just look over the cliff, you're not going to see underneath it. So they had to crawl on their bellies and peer over the cliff and look underneath. Huh. But after they did that, they found the body of a young teenage girl. They rappelled down. Sadly, the body was the body of Lisa Ann Millican, and she was already dead. So next to Lisa's body was a white towel, and wrapped inside of the towel were 3 syringes with remnants of a milky white substance. There was also a pair of women's jeans near Lisa's body with blood on them, but they were women's jeans. They were too big for Lisa's. They did not think they belonged to her. Lisa had 1 gunshot wound to her back, which was determined to be her cause of death. And it was also determined that she had likely been dead for 24 to 48 hours at this point, which means that she was not killed right away because she had been missing 4.5 days. Mm-hmm. So she wasn't dead that whole time. Police said that whoever this killer was wanted Lisa's body to be found, and that's why she had called them. Because if she had not called, there is no way that they would have ever found her. And even if they did find her, they wouldn't have known who she was. Oh. So they wouldn't have, the Alabama police wouldn't have known that there was a missing person for this child in Georgia. So they probably would have just labeled her a Jane Doe.
True. Yeah.
So for some reason,
time, yeah.
Right, exactly. So for some reason, whoever did this wanted this on the news or whatever.
So they think the person who called is the person who killed her.
Well, yeah, because she led her to the body, led them to the body, or at least she's involved.
Right.
Okay, so during Lisa's autopsy, the medical examiner found multiple bruises and injuries, and there were signs of a pretty violent and repeated sexual assault. She had 6 injection sites on her body. So she had both sides of her neck, both arms, and both of her butt cheeks.
What?
When they tested what she was injected with, it was determined to have been Drano and liquid plumber.
What?
Which, interestingly, is also what was inside those 3 syringes that they found nearby the body.
Oh my gosh. Why would you do that? Is that a way of trying to kill her? Well,
I don't know what the motive of that was, but I do know, because I looked it up, what would happen if you were injected with this crap. And injecting a drain cleaner in a person would not likely kill you, but it would make you violently ill and would be extremely painful and like it would burn, because
Right.
drain cleaner is a corrosive.
Right.
So it would literally feel like your tissue was being broken down inside your body.
Oh my goodness.
So Lisa was tortured essentially by these
Mm-hmm.
injections before being shot.
Jeez.
So, like you said, police definitely believe that the calls that they got from this young woman was Lisa's killer somehow involved, and they had recordings of her. Now they just needed to figure out who it was, and fast, because this was an extremely brutal and looked like a sadistic murder, and they were very worried about other victims because they were like, this lady or whoever did this to Lisa is a crazy person. Like,
Right.
we've got to catch them. They analyzed the calls and determined that they had come from a person who likely was not from Alabama, where Lisa's body was found. Because of the way she worded like the directions, she didn't seem to be a local.
Right.
So since the caller had also called the Rome, Georgia police, and since that's where Lisa had been kidnapped from, they figured that this person was likely from that area.
And
So they're more focusing on Georgia.
Right. Went down there to get rid of the body and then came back. Yeah.
Right. So now we have Georgia police and Alabama police working together, which is awesome. We love a collab. And it doesn't happen a lot because police departments are weird about that stuff. Interestingly, they also knew, based on the wording, that the caller was likely someone who had been a part of the system at some point. Okay, so this is when the wording that I told you to remember plays in. So the woman had said, "Y'all looking for Lisa Ann Millican. She's on run from Harpstone." So that phrase, on run, instead of saying runaway, is specific to people who have been in or worked in the criminal system in Georgia. So a person that works at the foster care system or a detective who takes missing persons reports in Georgia at that time would not say, "We've got a case of a runaway." They would say, "This person's on run."
Wow. Okay.
So this is a clue to them. So they know that since this person was super young sounding, she was probably not working in the criminal system because she kind of sounded like a kid. So she must have committed a crime.
Okay.
So police start looking into youth detention centers in the Rome, Georgia area. And they came up with a list of names of possible people that this caller could have been. I think it was like 20 names of young women that had, violent pasts, similar, they just made a list.
Couldn't she have also been somebody who was like in the system, like would Lisa have known this term on run because she was in Harpstone? And so couldn't she have also been somebody that was like in the foster care system?
She could have been, but she murdered somebody. So they are assuming she has a criminal past.
Okay, got it.
That this is not the first thing that she's ever done. They're looking at the criminals because, they be cramming.
Got it.
So, okay, let's see. So police start looking into these names, this list of names, and they were tracking these young women down. They interviewed them, verified alibis for when Lisa went missing. Okay, so now things are about to get crazy. This becomes like a real manhunt.
Oh my gosh.
Or woman hunt. So hang with me. So police were tracking these potential suspects down, and at the same time, they get calls from two separate other young women in Rome, Georgia, and in the area, reporting that a lady had attempted to kidnap them by offering rides. So separate, like on two separate days. Both of these women, one was also 13, by the way, like Lisa.
Oh, okay.
Said that this woman kept approaching them, like, "Let me give you a ride. Let me give you a ride. Just get in my car. Come on. You just come on with me." Very persistent. But it was in public. And so they were able to like walk into a business or, make a phone call, and they got away essentially. But they were so disturbed by her persistency that they both reported it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So both of them are brought in for questioning. And they both described a young, disheveled-looking woman who was thin, with long dark hair, driving a reddish-brown car. Okay. Both of them separately give the same description.
Mm-hmm.
One of the women said that this lady who had approached them had a young child with her.
How young?
Young, 2 and under. Both of the women were played the audio of who they thought was Lisa's murderer, and they both confirmed that based on the voice that it was the same woman.
Wow.
This lady must have had a really distinct voice because people put her voice together all over the place in this case. So now the police are super frantic because they knew that this murderer was not done and that she was definitely trying to kidnap more girls.
Mm-hmm, right.
Then, on October 4th, so now this is 5 days after Lisa's body was found, a man was brought into the station in Georgia. This man's name was John Hancock.
Stop it.
I know, that's unfortunate. Okay. But anyway, he was 26 years old. Okay, so John told police that he and his girlfriend, Janice Chatman, had been walking home, and a young woman with long dark hair had pulled over and offered to give them a ride. So John was hesitant, but his girlfriend Janice wanted a ride, and there were 2 small children in the car.
Oh, 2 now.
2 children. So ultimately he was like, well, I guess that's fine. I guess we'll just get a ride home. So Janice was 22, and I did read in a couple of reports that she was mentally disabled on some level, but I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So intellectually is what it said. So once they got in the car, the long-haired woman said that she was lonely and that she wanted to drive around with them for a while because she just didn't want to be by herself. She then called a man that she said was her husband on her CB radio.
What?
I know, like the truckers.
Right. I mean, clearly it's not cell phone error, so, I mean, but, geez, okay.
She used the handle Lady Sundown and called the man Night Rider.
Night Rider. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's a vibe. They made a plan to meet somewhere so that he could get in the car and hang out with them. So, of course, John said that at this point, they're very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, they're like, lady, you were supposed to take us home.
And they got these 2 kids in the backseat with them, like, what's up?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Once they met up with this man, which unfortunately was in a wooded area off the side of the road, John was forced out of the car and held at gunpoint by the woman. He was then led into the woods, and the woman shot him in the back.
Wait. Okay.
So he obviously survived. He played dead. And the woman and the man left with Janice still in the car. And the 2 kids, by the way. Who called this woman mommy?
Right.
Okay. So John had been shot in the shoulder and was able to make it back to the road where he flagged down help. That is how he got to this police station. Okay. So police are like barely believing this story. They're like, this is nuts.
But John Hancock got a gunshot wound in his shoulder.
They believe him. I'm just saying. But they were like, what is happening in our town right now?
Okay.
But as they were walking John through the station, this is bananas. They just so happened to walk past the room where police were playing the audio recordings of Lisa's killer to one of the other people that she had tried to abduct. John heard that and immediately stopped and yelled, "That's who shot me."
You don't have a recording of her voice? She has to have some sort of like distinctive.
It has to be. I don't know. I didn't look it up. I'll have to find it. Okay. So everyone at this point is absolutely dumbfounded because now we have a lot more information. They have a living victim of this woman in their department. But now they also have another woman who's missing, Janice, John's girlfriend. And based on his story, there are possibly 2 endangered children.
Right.
And now there's a man.
Yeah, attached to this. Yeah, exactly.
Night Rider. Mm-hmm. So police went back to their list of potential suspects. They found one person with a very violent past who just so happened to have given birth to twins at a Rome Youth Detention Center 2 years before at the age of 16. And she just so happened to meet the description of a young, thin woman with long black hair. And she just so happened to be married to a man who had also been convicted of violent crimes, and he met the description of Knight Rider that John gave them.
What kind of violent crimes are they?
I'm going to tell you about it.
Okay.
So police are like, this is them. This has to be them. It meets everything that we know. And this couple was Alvin and Judith Neely.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to talk about them for a minute. Alvin was from Georgia and started committing petty crimes as a teenager, stealing cars, setting fires. Judith was from Tennessee, and she was from a really strange home. So her dad was killed while driving drunk on a motorcycle, and after that, her mom became very promiscuous, and she would meet men over her CB radio.
Oh my Lord.
And have them over for sex. Just different men every night. Alvin was one of those men that came over, and he and Judith met in 1979. Alvin was 26 and Judith was 15.
So is he the father of the kids?
We'll get there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The following year in 1980, they got married, and both of them began a life of crime together.
So they 16, she's married.
15.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. She was either 15 or 16 to a 26-year-old man.
Right.
No, it's not legal. They would work at convenience stores, and then they would steal money and checks from the stores and skip town and go somewhere else and just do it all again. They also started robbing people on the street, so like purse snatchers. And then they escalated and began committing armed robberies in gas stations and stores and holding people at gunpoint and robbing them. Eventually, Judith was caught for this in Rome, Georgia, while attempting to rob a woman at Riverbend Mall at gunpoint, which is where Lisa was kidnapped from, by the way. When she was arrested, she was 9 months pregnant with twins. Alvin's twins.
Oh, my word.
Because she was only 16 at the time, Judith was treated as a minor and was sent to a youth detention center where she gave birth to the twins, who were taken by Alvin's mom, by the way.
Okay.
After Judith was arrested, she immediately rolled on Alvin, and she confessed a bunch of their crimes, like other crimes that they didn't even know about. They didn't know that was them. And so he was also arrested. But because he was an adult, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Okay.
So Judith served a little bit over a year in the youth detention center and was released in the fall of 1981. Alvin was given an early release and got out of prison in April of 1982. The two stayed married and were given back custody of their two twins, but continued to live a life of crime and rob people until eventually, in September of 1982, they majorly escalated and kidnapped, tortured, raped, and murdered Lisa. And now they have Janice.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that's where we are now. Now that we know who they are, that's how they got here. So police began searching for the couple, and they were very surprised to learn that Judith and Alvin were actually already in jail.
What?
They had just been arrested in Tennessee for check fraud. They were trying to cash bad checks.
So where's Janice?
Okay, so also at that time, Judith was pregnant again with their third baby. So Judith confessed everything. She confessed that she had kidnapped Lisa from the mall. She said they took her to a hotel in Alabama where they kept her captive for 3 days, repeatedly raping and abusing her while pregnant with her two toddlers present in the hotel.
Right. Oh my gosh.
She then took Lisa to the canyon and injected her with drain cleaner, telling her that she was giving her medicine to make her go to sleep so that she could leave her there. When the drain cleaner failed to kill Lisa and her screaming and crying got too loud, Judith then shot her in the back and pushed her over the cliff. So all of this information matches everything that they know. already about Lisa's murder, because like the information about the drain cleaner was not released to the public.
Okay.
Like that was not something that everyone knew about.
I'm wondering how she got underneath this cliff if she pushed her over. Like, how did she?
I don't know, it's just the way she fell, I guess.
Yeah. Huh.
Judith also told police that she had shot John Hancock and kidnapped Janice. She said that they took Janice back to another hotel in Tennessee, again with her children also there, and abused her in the same way. They then took her to a remote location and she shot and killed her.
Oh, no.
So Judith is saying that she was the one who killed both of the women and attempted to kill John. She didn't know John was alive.
Mm-hmm.
But she obviously implicated Alvin and a bunch of other stuff. Police searched their cars and found guns, CB radios, motel receipts under fake names, and letters between the couple implicating themselves in the crimes. Judith gave birth in prison while awaiting trial to their third baby. Alvin was not tried for Lisa's kidnapping, rape, or murder.
What?
At all.
Why?
Well, Judith confessed that she had essentially done everything herself except the rape, but they didn't find any evidence connecting him to the rape. Okay. So like they know he was in the hotel room. They should have charged him with it. Like that for some reason, I don't know if they had him on other stuff and so they were like, we're just going to deal with him on the other stuff that we can actually for sure get him convicted on. So he was extradited to Alabama and charged with the first-degree murder of Janice and aggravated assault against John Hancock because he was there. John told them he was there. Alvin also, as a part of like sort of a part of a plea deal, he told them where Janice's body was, and they did recover that. She had been shot once in the back and twice in the chest.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So Alvin blamed Judith for everything, saying that she was crazy, she was controlling of him, and that she was the mastermind. She was sadistic. She got off on torturing people, and that he was afraid of her, and that that's the only reason why he like did anything she told him to, because he was scared of her. Alvin was said to have had a low IQ, but he also freaking married Judith when she was 15 and got her pregnant, and he's a grown adult. And his ex-wife testified that he was violent and abusive to her. So I'm not buying what you're selling, Alvin. Alvin claimed that the sexual activity was consensual with both Lisa and Janice, and that they had actually agreed to have threesomes with them. But I'm sorry, she's 13.
Right.
And Janice was mentally disabled.
Right.
So no, they did not consensually have sex with you two psychos. And it's nasty that you're even saying that. Just saying. He did lead police.
I'm afraid right now.
I don't like Alvin. I don't like you.
I don't know if I've ever seen you that like passionate about something.
Well, you can't say I consensually had sex with a 13-year-old.
No, I know.
It's like the most ridiculous sentence ever.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So he took a plea deal and pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He died in prison in 2005 at 52 years old while undergoing some kind of a surgery.
Oh, okay.
Judith was tried as an adult. She was only 18. She claimed battered wife syndrome. She claimed that Alvin was controlling and abusive and that he had made her do everything against her will. But no, he didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're both just doing it because they both enjoyed it.
She was by herself when she was attempting to kidnap those other girls.
Right.
She was by herself when she kidnapped Lisa, and by herself when she tortured her and shot her. So at 18 years old, Judith was convicted of capital murder in Alabama for Lisa Ann Millican's murder.
Good.
She was sentenced to death, and she was the youngest woman to have ever been given the death penalty. Ever.
You know what's really funny? I'm sorry. It's not funny. I just looked that up recently because remember there was like death penalty stuff and I told you there was like a chart of stuff, whatever. Yeah. And so I literally Googled some things about death penalty and who is the youngest person youngest woman ever, and it came up Krista Pike.
Oh, maybe it's just in Alabama then.
No, I mean, I don't know.
Well, hold on, because something changes, and so there might be another thing that plays into that. Okay, so Judith then pled guilty to Janice Chatman's murder.
Okay.
And she agreed to testify against Alvin, but then he ended up taking that plea deal and telling him where the body was, and so she didn't need to testify, but she was going to. In 1999, just days before her scheduled execution, the governor of Alabama commuted her death sentence to life with the possibility of parole in 15 years. So that might be why it's saying she wasn't given the death penalty, because it was commuted. And so it might look like on paper that she didn't have the death penalty, but I don't know.
Right, but she was still at that time.
She was
the youngest person. But if you
right.
Google youngest female, whatever, it says, it comes up Krista Pike, which so it's just weird that I just did this recently and you're telling this story right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to look into that later and see. But anyway, so she was denied parole in 2018. Her next parole hearing is scheduled for May 25th of 2023, which is in like a few days. So by the time this drops,
it will have happened.
That will have already happened. Okay, but even if she's granted parole in Alabama this month, she's still sentenced to life in prison without parole in Georgia for Janice's murder. So all that would happen, yeah, she'd just get transferred. Oh. They would just extradite her to Georgia, and she would have to live out her sentence. So either way, she is going to be in prison.
Okay.
For the rest of her life. She is currently 59 years old, and she is imprisoned at the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women in Wetumpka.
Stop.
Wetumpka, Alabama. My favorite city.
Whoa. I didn't realize there was a prison there, I guess.
Yes, I didn't either. She is known as the Drano Killer, and she and Alvin are also called Georgia's Bonnie and Clyde, which is so gross. And like we said at the beginning, they are technically considered to be serial killers.
Right, yeah.
And that is the case of Lisa Ann Millican and Janice Chatman. Whew.
And of course, I'm sorry, they had to give her that name, the Drano Killer, even though Drano did not kill her.
No, because journalists are real bad attention whores. Sorry, don't come at me, journalist. We like you for some things. Sensationalizing murder is not one of them, but
no. Gosh. Ugh.
Yeah. And I'm not giving Alvin a pass here because he was the POS in a real big way. But Judith, she is like a psycho on a whole nother level. She was a mom. She had 2 children present. She was pregnant. And you know, the fact that she was pregnant and had kids with her made her seem more trustworthy, which is just disgusting. Also, props to Georgia and Alabama, because this was a wild investigation. They did a good job.
No kidding. Jeez.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say today.
I can't believe. Okay, wait. So she's in jail in Wetumpka for Lisa's murder because that's where Lisa was found.
Right.
And
where she was murdered.
Right. Well, yes, that's what I meant. But she, what is wrong? I'm sorry, with the Alabama governor, because why did she get the possibility of parole for that one? I'm not saying that one murder is worse than the other, but she literally injected her with Drano and tortured her and did more things.
And then went on to murder again.
Right. So I don't understand why
she should never be out. Never.
No, gratefully she won't be, because Georgia will have her then. But why does she even I get commuting a sentence, maybe you just don't want the death penalty, blah 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 blah. So you commute it to life in prison without parole. If you're on death row, I don't think you should have the possibility of parole.
Okay, so I did read. No, I agree 100%.
Okay.
That she should not have been given parole eligibility. But I did read that, so this was one of those cases where the jury recommended life without parole, and the judge overruled that.
Because there's a few states where they can do that?
Well, yes, and Alabama used to be one of them, but it's not anymore. And that governor, I think, is the governor the governor that commuted her sentence is the same governor that passed that a judge did not, that it was against constitutional rights for a judge to override a jury. And so I think he was on a high horse and was like, well, this woman was a victim of this law that we had to overturn. And so maybe that played into why he commuted it, but I don't know.
Well, I understand that, actually. I do understand, like, okay, well, this was, it wasn't a law then, but it is now, so let's commute it. But still, you commute it to life without parole. Not
Right, which is what the jury recommended.
Right,
So, like,
right.
if you want to be on your soapbox and say we have to do what the jury recommended, then he didn't even do that.
Yeah,
He
right.
gave her
Exactly.
eligibility for parole. So, like, sorry,
Yeah,
governor,
it's weird. Governor.
governor.
Oh my gosh. Well, gosh, thank you. I
You're
know.
welcome.
I mean, okay, so I know it was kids. I mean, teens. So
Yes.
it's still kids. So that was hard for you, but that was a ride.
Yeah,
Like,
I told you.
yeah. Did you hear that?
Was that your belly?
It was my
Are you
belly.
hungry?
So if you guys can hear that, I'm so sorry. This is the second time it happened, but you were talking the first time. Oh my gosh. Anyways, thank you so much for diving into that, and
You're welcome.
Stephanie for sending it our way. Gosh, why have we not heard of this? It seems like it's so crazy.
It is. And I was literally just getting ready to say it's so weird that we haven't heard of it, because I'm not kidding you. There's like 5 documentaries that we watch, like investigation discovery stuff that we watch that are about this.
Right. Is there one like Killer Ladies or something, or Killer Couples?
Wicked Attraction, Deadly Women, Most Evil. There's a whole slew of them.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
Wow.
most of the documentaries do think that Judith was the mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
But that they were both sadistic people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of believe that.
And it's what's interesting too is, and I can't remember which documentary talks about this, but they don't really ever know why, like what her motive was.
Right.
Like, did she have bisexual tendencies and wanted to rape women?
Right.
Or did she like watching Alvin do it? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
No one really understands her motivation behind these crimes.
Yeah.
Other than just to be sadistic.
And just being so young, like.
Oh, yeah.
She was 18, right, when she was arrested? Yeah.
Yep.
So. Jeez. Wow. Yeah, that was quite
and
a
her
doozy.
Poor kids.
I know. Where are they with the grandparents again?
I mean, they're adults now, but I don't know.
And the one that she had after the fact?
I know that I think so, yeah. I think his parents raised the children.
Okay. Oof. Wow. Well, I don't even have anything to say about this.
We've said a lot here today.
Yeah.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Oof. Well, I literally am at a loss. I'm at a loss. I can't even like process all of this.
We should say that next week is the week of 4th of July. And so we will not be dropping an episode into your feed. So there's that news.
I forgot. You're so good at remembering that stuff, because guys, we're not recording anywhere near that, but we did just have a conversation about it. So, but she's good at remembering what's happening before and after these episodes that we are recording when we're recording it.
I thrive on timelines and like calendar management.
Yeah. So we won't be in your feed next week, but we will be after that. We all deserve a little break.
Yes, we'll be with our fam dams.
Yes.
Oh, and I'll let everybody know if I hear anything about that parole hearing.
Right. Yes. Please do that, because that's. You said May, May 25th. So
I may tag something onto the end here if it's big news.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for diving into that. Thanks for telling the story. Rest in peace, Lisa and Janice and all the other poor people that ran into Alvin and Judith. Gosh, Alvin. I don't come across that name too often.
And it doesn't seem like a mean name.
No.
Like you would never expect. Literally, that's what I think of too. Like, I mean, he was a little stinker, Alvin.
Yeah. Right. But he wasn't this bad.
No, man.
So,
just
anyway.
Awful.
All right. Well, thanks for diving in. Look forward to whatever you bring next, because I always feel like I'm like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah, thank you, listeners. It's all
Yes.
up. It's all on you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
because you guys keep giving them to us. We have not had to come up with a story or a case in forever. So
Yeah.
thank you for continuing to send them in. So don't think we're getting sick of them by any means, because we keep them rolling. So anyways, thanks for doing that. Thanks for listening. Go check us out on social media. Go check us out on Patreon if you so choose, because there's some extra content over there that will keep you busy for weeks that we're not on your feed.
Mm-hmm.
And let us know what you think. And then just always remember, the world is scary. People suck. Hide in your closets.